When you think of a hack and slash game, you usually think of what every hack and slash feels like. Mindlessly plowing through armies of pathetically weak enemies while moving through a linear and visually lacking world, and following a shallow and somewhat confusing story. You mash buttons, watch enemies fly across the screen, move to the next area, watch some cutscene about what's happening in the story, and repeat the process until the credits roll. There's no variety of gameplay or anything like that. This scenario here is why a lot of people think hack and slash games are so stupid. They all feel similar, shallow, and boring. This is why these kinds of games are so controversial in the gaming space. They lack unique mechanics and feel mind-numbing to some people. However, not every hack and slash game has to be this way. Just like any game genre, they can be unique in their own ways. But how, and why can it be more difficult to do that with this specific genre? Well, that's what I want to talk about today. First, let's talk about what makes these games feel so similar to each other. Hack and slash games all share a core gameplay cycle, which for other genres is usually fine, but because of how centered and simple hack and slash's main gameplay is, unlike something like just a simple action RPG open world game that has a lot of room to experiment with concepts and things like that, it's hard to make a hack and slash game where the main gameplay is so constricting feel unique, but it's not impossible. Really quick though, I know the video is still just starting, but if you enjoy it, subscribing and liking really helps me out as a new channel, so consider that while you're watching. Okay, back to the video. A lot of games try to solve this issue by simply throwing more enemies at the player or making combo systems more complicated, but that doesn't always fix the underlying issue. If every enemy dies in one hit and every room plays out exactly the same way, adding another 50 enemies to fight doesn't suddenly make things more interesting. In fact, it can sometimes make the game feel even more repetitive because you're doing the exact same thing for longer stretches of time. But there are examples of games that have done a unique hack and slash right. One great example of a unique hack and slash is The Force Unleashed, and this game pretty much does everything a unique hack and slash game can do. While it still focuses on the core idea of being incredibly overpowered and plowing through huge groups of enemies, it brings balance and interest to the game. Unlike games like Dynasty Warriors or something like that, you're never really plowing through hundreds of weak enemies with no challenge, and even having a chance of difficulty with boss enemies. Instead, you're more of a glass cannon. It's very easy to die to regular enemies in this game if you're not careful, but that doesn't mean you can't paralyze a huge group of enemies with force lightning, or fly through the air and cut up a group of weird Felucian guys in 5 seconds. That balance is important because it keeps you engaged. You feel extremely powerful, but you're still threatened. You can't just turn your game off and spam attacks forever because normal enemies are actually capable of overwhelming you if you make mistakes. It creates a satisfying middle ground where you get the fantasy of being unstoppable while having enough danger to make every encounter feel meaningful and engaging. Not only does it provide that balance, but the game also provides diverse world building, enemies, and stories, something mainstream hack and slash games usually struggle with. You travel between a space station, a lush swamp planet, and even a trash planet, all while fighting unique species and forces that live on each planet. Every environment has its own visual identity and atmosphere, and because of that, the game constantly feels like it's actually progressing instead of recycling the same environment over and over again. This reduces the mindlessness of just plowing through waves of enemies too. When different locations naturally introduce different enemy types and hazards that force you to think differently, that keeps the pacing fresh over the course of the campaign. Having small and simple puzzles throughout the world also helps with resolving mindless gameplay. Sometimes you have to use the force to lift a door up or rip out a generator, which not only gives enemies chances to get shots off at you, but also makes you keep an eye out for what you might need to do next, instead of being fully focused on plowing through enemies. Those little interruptions may sound insignificant, but they break up the constant combat loop and stop the gameplay from becoming completely repetitive. Also, while most hack and slash games rely on deep combo systems, simple movement, and equipment gain to provide progression to the game's available skills, which can make you feel like you don't have your own personal or unique skill developments, The Force Unleashed uses talent trees to progress your skills, which allows players to forge their own abilities and create their unique preferences. One player might focus on improving their force powers, while another invests heavily into lightsaber attacks or something like that. That type of progression also gives players something to look forward to beyond just the next level. Instead of only unlocking another combat input you're never going to use, or finding a weapon with slightly better stats, you're making choices that affect how you actually play the game, which helps create a stronger feeling of ownership over your character. On top of all of this, the game not only has in-depth boss fights which include different kinds of gameplay like quick time events, but it also has a bigger focus on story and an in-depth narrative with multiple endings, which gives the game more of a feeling of purpose. Rather than feeling like like combat exists just for the sake of combat. Every level feels like it's pushing the story forward and gives you another reason to keep playing beyond simply defeating the next wave of enemies. The game does all this while staying true to its hack and slash roots. It doesn't abandon the genre or suddenly become a slow-moving RPG or puzzle game. It still embraces the fast-paced combat and over-the-top action that people expect from a hack and slash, but it surrounds that gameplay with enough variety that the experience remains engaging from beginning to end. While The Force Unleashed is an extreme example of a very unique hack and slash, the game represents pretty much everything that could possibly make a unique hack and slash. Introducing pretty much any of these parts into a basic hack and slash can contribute to making it much more unique. Whether it's stronger world building, better progression systems, meaningful stories, environmental interaction, more balanced combat, or simply giving players more reasons to think while fighting, these small additions can dramatically improve the experience. At the end of the day, I don't think hack and slash games are inherently bad. I love an average hack and slash game. In fact, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is my favorite game of all time. I think they just have to work harder than some other genres to avoid feeling mindless, because their core gameplay loop is so simple. But when developers put in that extra effort and find ways to diversify the experience, they can create something that's just as memorable as any RPG, shooter, or platformer. Thanks for watching to the end. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, I'm a new channel, so subscribing, commenting what you think, and liking the video really helps push me into the algorithm. So if you want to see more stuff like this, make sure to do those things. Thanks for watching.